After 20 long years of civil war, one man is left standing in charge of the entire Roman world, Octavian, the man we now know as Augustus. His big promise? To restore the Republic. But what did that actually mean? Did he really save Rome by bringing back its old traditions? Or did he just pull off the greatest political magic trick in history, creating a brilliant disguise for one-man rule? So, how on earth did he do it? Let's get into it.
Right off the bat, you can see history gives us two totally different versions of this guy. On one side, you have the historian Velleius Paterculus, who paints Augustus as the ultimate savior, the one who brought back peace, brought back order, and saved civilization. But then you have Tacitus, who saw him as this incredibly clever usurper, a guy who quietly and slowly took apart the Republic while everyone was just so grateful for the peace. So which is it, savior or schemer? That's what we're here to figure out. All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll set the scene. What did Rome even look like when he took over? Then we'll dig into his side of the story, the official restoration. After that, we'll flip the coin and look at the cynical view, that it was all just for show. We'll break down the very specific powers he created for himself. And then we'll get to the big question, what did the Republic even mean to Romans at that point?
You know, to really get why Augustus was so successful, you have to understand the world he stepped into. Rome wasn't just in a crisis. It was utterly shattered. We're talking 2 decades of nonstop, brutal civil war. An entire generation had grown up knowing nothing but violence, political chaos, and uncertainty. The hunger for peace wasn't just a casual wish. It was a deep, desperate, all-consuming need.
And think about the power vacuum here. The old Republican armies, the ones loyal to the Senate, gone, wiped out years earlier. All the other big players, Sextus Pompey, Lepidus, and finally Mark Antony, they were all defeated or dead. By 30 BC, Octavian is the only one left. He has the legions, he has the money, he has the power. He is, for all intents and purposes, the master of the world. And he's facing this monumental task of trying to put it all back together.
So what's his big plan? Well, if you ask Augustus himself, it was pretty simple. Give the power back. So let's take a look at the official story, the version that he wanted everyone, including us, to remember. This right here, this is the cornerstone of his entire political project. It's from his own tell-all biography, the Res Gestae. He claims that he just voluntarily handed control back to the Senate and the Roman people. See how he frames it? It's not a power grab, it's a power return. He's the hero who saved the day and is now gracefully stepping aside. I mean, this was political messaging at its absolute finest. And his supporters really ran with this narrative. The historian Velleius Paterculus describes this complete and total healing of Rome. It wasn't just that the fighting stopped. No. According to him, every single part of society was fixed. The laws made sense again, the courts had authority, the Senate had its dignity back. The story was simple and powerful. Augustus didn't just win a war, he healed a sick nation. It all sounds pretty perfect, doesn't it? Peace, order, tradition back on track. But was it really that simple? Or was this beautiful picture he painted hiding a much more complicated and maybe even a much darker reality?
Okay, let's flip the coin, because not everyone was buying the official story. Later historians, guys like Tacitus and Cassius Dio, they looked back on all this and saw something completely different. They saw a brilliant facade, an elaborate stage play designed to hide the fact that one man was now in charge of everything. Tacitus does not pull any punches. He just cuts right through all the propaganda. He says all that talk about duty to his father, about saving the state, just convenient excuses. For Tacitus, the real motivation was a raw lust for despotic power. He saw Augustus not as a patriot, but as a ruthless operator who used bribes and manipulation to get exactly what he wanted. And this is where you see the debate in black and white. On the one hand, you have Augustus making this very clever distinction. He says, sure, I had more auctoritas, that's like prestige, personal influence, but I had no more official legal power or potestas than anyone else. But then Cassius Dio comes along and just says, come on. He says, call it whatever you want, but if one guy has the final say, it's a monarchy. Let's just call it what it is.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Forget the official titles for a second. Everyone knew where the real power was. I mean, how can you have a truly free debate with a man who controls every army and can quite literally have you killed? That was the chilling reality simmering just beneath the surface of this beautifully restored republic.
And don't think for a second that everybody just accepted this. There were serious conspiracies against him, often led by powerful senators from old noble families. And these plots were crushed ruthlessly. This tells us two really important things. One, there was real resentment and opposition to his rule. And two, Augustus would do whatever it took, including lethal force, to protect his position. So if he wasn't a king and he wasn't a dictator, then what was he? How did he actually run the show? Well, the answer is in the details. He created this brilliant, totally new package of powers that gave him all the control he needed without any of the scary old titles.
A huge turning point was what historians called the Second Settlement. Augustus makes this big public show of giving up the consulship, the top job in Rome. This was a genius move because it made the other senators happy. They could get the top job now. But look what he got in return. Two new, unprecedented powers that were granted to him for life: tribunian power and superior proconsular power.
Okay, so Maius Imperium, this is the Iron Fist. This is the bedrock of his power. It gave him ultimate command over every single Roman soldier, everywhere. It meant no governor out in the provinces could ever challenge him. He was effectively the permanent commander-in-chief of everything. All military power started and ended with him.
And if Maius Imperium was the Iron Fist, his Tribunicia Potestas was the Velvet Glove. By taking on the powers of a tribune, he positioned himself as the great protector of the common people. It let him propose laws, veto anyone else's laws, and this is huge, it made his physical body legally sacred. You couldn't touch him. It was a brilliant way to have total control over the government in Rome itself.
And Tacitus, again, saw this for exactly what it was. He basically says Augustus invented this new job title just to describe his own supreme power. It sounded old, it sounded Republican, but it was custom-built for a monarch. It was a way to have all the power of a king without ever having to use that dirty word. So all of this brings us to what might be the most important question of all. When Augustus and other Romans talked about restoring the res publica, what did they actually mean by that? Did they mean the same thing we do? You can really look at this in two ways. If res publica means the Constitution, the old political rulebook with the Senate in charge, well, then Augustus was lying. He destroyed that and created a monarchy. But if res publica means the common good, the health and stability of the Roman state itself, then you could argue he was telling the absolute truth. He ended the chaos and saved the state, which was the real goal all along.
And at the end of the day, this is what it really boils down to. For most people, from the average shopkeeper to even many senators, this whole constitutional debate probably didn't matter as much as one simple thing: peace. He gave them stability. He gave them a world where they didn't have to worry about the next civil war. And for that, most people were more than willing to accept his unique position. So we're left with this puzzle. Did Augustus save the Republic, or did he just perfect monarchy by giving it a much better brand? There's no doubt he destroyed the old, broken system of government. But in its place, he built something that gave Rome centuries of stability. In a way, he was both a restorer and an inventor. And the strange hybrid system he created, what we call the Roman Empire, would define the Western world for 1,000 years.